On the shores of the Sea of Galilee, a massive crowd of villagers gathers. They press toward the water to hear Jesus teach. Stepping into a small fishing boat to speak above the noise, he begins with a simple story about a local farmer. He describes the man walking through a field, throwing handfuls of seed onto 4 very different types of ground. But as the story ends, there is no explanation. No moral is given. Jesus simply says, "Whoever has ears, let them hear," leaving the crowd in a state of confused silence. These stories act as a filter. They are designed to remain opaque to the casually curious, while inviting those who are genuinely hungry for the truth to step forward and ask what they mean. Once the crowd thins, Peter, John, and Thomas pull Jesus aside. They are still thinking about the farmer and the field, and they need to understand the reality behind the imagery. Jesus begins to define the elements of the story. The seed represents the message of the kingdom of God. The soil identifies the state of the human heart. It is the internal landscape where the message is received. The message of the kingdom functions as an active catalyst. Its impact is determined by the specific internal environment it encounters. Thomas and Peter look back to the start of the story, the seed that fell on the hard, packed dirt path. Jesus describes this as a heart that rigidly refuses to understand or accept the message. It is a surface that has become completely compacted by resistance. Because the ground is impenetrable, the seed never takes root. It sits exposed on the surface, allowing the evil one to instantly snatch it away, much like birds scavenging on a walkway. Proximity to the truth means very little if a hardened mindset prevents that truth from ever penetrating the surface. The disciples then ask about the second scenario, the seed scattered across shallow, rocky ground. This represents someone who receives the message with immediate, explosive emotional joy. It looks successful in the first few moments, but beneath the surface, there is no depth. The threat here is external. When trouble or persecution inevitably hits, this unrooted faith immediately collapses under the heat. Emotional enthusiasm cannot serve as a substitute for deep, resilient endurance. Without roots, the plant simply cannot survive the friction of the real world. Peter turns his attention to the third outcome, the seed that was thrown directly among the thorn bushes. In this case, the person hears and receives the message, but they attempt to grow it alongside pre-existing competing priorities. Thorns grow naturally and aggressively. The pursuit of wealth, the weight of daily anxieties, and the distractions of life slowly starve the truth of the resources it needs to survive. A truth is often destroyed not by a violent rejection, but by being neutralized over time by the sheer volume of a crowded, distracted life. Finally, Peter asks about the last scenario, the seed that landed in the good soil. This represents a heart that actively hears, understands, and retains the message. In this environment, the seed produces an exponential harvest, 30, 60, or 100 times what was originally sown. As the disciples listen, the pattern becomes clear. In every scenario, the farmer was the same, and the seed was identical. The message itself never changed. The variable that dictates success is not the message itself, but exclusively the condition of the heart that receives it. These 4 patterns represent the possible responses to a single truth. We see the flat line of a hardened heart, the brief spike of shallow emotion, the erratic struggle of a distracted mind, and the massive upward curve of deep understanding. This leaves us with a direct and challenging question. It is not a matter of whether you have heard the truth, but what specific kind of soil you are. True spiritual transformation is impossible to achieve without first doing the hard work of cultivating a receptive heart.